already the first keynote speaker mentioned, near future, okay, in the classroom, those topics are not so important, I think. One is, okay, memorize knowledge. Now the computer can memorize much more and never forget. And so nowadays in Japan, if the student want to know something, don't ask teacher, but use Google. Okay, that is the current situation, but maybe that is true. And also, for example, I know that Indian people has the very good skills about the calculating and mathematics, but calculation skill itself, of course, the computer can calculate faster, more accurate. So those kind of skills also not so important in future. If you want to calculate a lot of things, you can use machines. Okay? So what needed for the future education? Okay, so now I'm introducing STEM robotics education in Japan, also in India and any other countries. Okay, there are two important points, key points in our methodology of the education. One is the hands-on activity, learning by doing, and second one is the context-based learning. Okay, those are the key points. Okay, so I quickly introduce those points, 2 points. Okay, one is first is hands-on. Okay, for example, do you know this? Okay, so maybe you know the name. Okay, this is the standing fan, wind fan, ceiling fan. I'm not sure, but you know the name. But from point of view of the next generation education, if you know, can you describe the architecture, the mechanism of this one? Okay, that is more important. Okay, because to improve something, you need the inside, not only just a name. Okay, so this is our way of education. So that to understand something, give them the opportunity to do and make this one by themselves. For example, this is the picture that student try to make his own standing fan, electric fan, by using some of the materials. Okay? Through this kind of hands-on activity, students understand how it works, what is the elements of it. So, and through this kind of activity, students understand, understand those kind of things using many technologies. And also, based on those technologies, there are the academic areas, science, mathematics, and any other areas connected. So and also, the human is improving those technologies day by day using the concept of engineering. So through that kind of hands-on activities, we believe the students understand more deeply. And also, once they understand those kind of structure, they can apply those basic elements to the other things understanding. And also, they are using those elements to create the new one, better one. Okay, that is we expect for the next generation students. Okay, for example, there are many things we are living together in the day life, and also we can give them the opportunity to make those things using the very tiny toy materials. Okay, so for example, this is an automatic door made by the student. Okay, through this kind of activity, students really know how those elements are really connected. Okay, so transportation system is also same, like this. Okay, so now that we are introducing this kind of education to the Indian private and government schools through the Indian companies and local government, and providing the training and materials. Also, this is the example of the doing in the government school. Even the government school, we expect that they are doing the same activities. And through these activities, not only just memorizing, but also sharing the ideas among the class we expected. Okay. And the second point is quickly, the context is very important because now the many knowledge is on the website. So student motivation of the learning is decreasing. So to increase their motivation of why they have to learn is based on the context, situation. So we are we have the many stimulation to encourage the student to have the good context to study.
A science camp
this
in
is
northeastern
last
Japan
movie I want to show you.
Students a unique learning experience. It combines
Could you
real-life lessons with scientific inspiration. NHK World's Makiyajima reports.
The two sensors.
It's a small robot, but it's meant to give some big inspiration to these guys, students from Thailand, India, and Japan. They all travel to northeastern Japan, an area still recovering from the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. They are here for a science camp. Its purpose, to teach them about the disaster and then show how science could be used to help. They started with a tour of what was once an elementary school. The tsunami killed more than 80 students and teachers here.
There's a kind of flower bed. The victims were overtaken by the tsunami there.
Giving the tour is Takuya Hatakeyama, a former junior high school principal from a nearby school.
I wanted children to visit and see the site for themselves. I think there are things I can't express using words. I hope what they felt and thought will be helpful for their next step.
They also met with survivors. Over a meal, they talked about the disaster as well as life after.
A huge tsunami surged. There was water everywhere. I saw houses floating and turning, and then they were swept away.
It was all an eye-opening experience for the students.
The stories were really sad because so much happens in such a short period of time. We should create something that will help people who cannot help themselves.
And that's where science comes into play. Back in the classroom, the students are given the task of designing miniature robots. The thought is that someday, bigger, more sophisticated versions will be used to rescue people when disasters strike. Once assembled, the robots are programmed to navigate a track. But it's no easy task.
Instead of moving along the line, it started rotating. Whatever I would do, it would rotate. I will try my best to make my robot successful.
After a whole day of trial and error, the robots started to make it the whole way around.
When creating a robot, it is important to be clear about who will use it and how it will be used. I want the students to take a practical approach to trying to improve the world as engineers or other citizens in the future.
And within this group today could very well be the engineers behind the rescue robots of tomorrow. Makiyajima, NHK World, Miyagi.
Okay, in this video, I mentioned at the last moment, the important point is why they are learning in the school. Because we expect the new youngster will solve our serious social problem in the future. So we are now doing through this kind of activity, we encourage the teachers to introduce in this kind of the social program as the context of the studying in school. And we are inviting many Indian students also coming to Japan with the teacher to learn this kind of a new way of education we are involving in Japan. So that last moment that we expect, from now we have to think the different about the education. We expect the student not feeding, spoon feeding the attitude in school classroom, but also all of them can realize our future by themselves. And many people want to predict our future, but predict is no meaning. Okay? If we want to change our future, we have to invent by ourselves. So my opinion is that we let the student to do by themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nomura, but I would request you to come back on stage, please. What a wonderful line to end with, that to predict future is to invent it. The better way to predict future is to invent it. And I request Dr. Mrs. Vandana Lula, who's the director and principal of Podar International School and director of Podar Group of Schools, to be on stage, come on stage and join us and felicitate Dr. Nomura with flowers and the memento. Arigato gozaimasu. Dr. Nomura, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll just take it. Thank you. And for the next session, we are going to call on stage Ms. Divya Lal, Director and Chief Operating Officer, Smart Class Educational, who has over 18 years of experience, currently working as the Director and Chief Operating Officer of Smart Class Educational. Divya is a seasoned education industry leader with experience in creative, innovative school solutions, building and managing relationship with schools, academic support, training and operation. She leads a team of more than 800 people. I think that's a big number of people. Let's have a big round of applause for that. Huge number of people. And managing 4,000 schools and impacting over 1 million students. Divya is passionate about creating 21st century future-ready schools and bridging the digital divide. She is talking about how to educate using smart class. So the stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for the kind introduction. My name is Divya. I work with Smart Class Educational, that today, beyond its name of Smart Class, does work towards many other facets in education. While it is the STEM education and robotics, that is one of the things that we are also working with. We work with health and wellness, where we help children understand concept of health, education, and we help them build a far healthier lifestyles. We work with providing financing support to schools. But today I'm going to talk about an aspect of education that is very close to every person's heart. You don't need to be an educationist. I think in some part of our life, we have always been associated with, and that is assessment. So I was very interested when Swati ma'am in the morning talked about assessment and said, how you're helping your children to understand better and how do you impact learning. I'm going to talk about what does it make and what happens when those early years are over and when children, during the academic process, essentially start discovering their performances, their assessment scores, and knowing how can we help every child to perform better. To do that, we've launched what we call the National Cognitive Aptitude Test, and that is in partnership with also Japan's #1 education company, Kyoshi, that have brought the solution and partnered with us to enable the best possible diagnostic assessment for science and maths to Indian curriculum. But before I tell you about what the test is and how are we doing it currently in the country, I think it is important to understand one very basic piece, and that is that assessment while learning is in larger groups, whether the class size is 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60, assessment at the end of the day becomes a very personalized agenda. Every report card is different, every child's performance is different, and while the instruction remains in one or different ways, at the end of the day, every child needs support that is very, very personalized. Because what may work as a remedial for child A may not work for another child inside the class. And how do we ensure that that personalization happens? We all understand that concepts over the years are built on underlying concepts. Any fundamental concept that is not understood well will create concept gaps in future. That is a very simple philosophy to work on. But when you grow up and you start learning complex concepts, you tend to realize that many subjects children start running away from, whether it's a maths terror. Many chapters and subjects the children don't start finding their affinity to it. And that is because of a fundamental weaker understanding of previous concepts. Anything that doesn't help you to score well